All right, thank you, Mayor, members of this distinguished council. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. What I've been doing over the past couple of months is going from town to town to talk about criminal statistics, what's been going on in the community, but specifically focused on prosecutions. Now, I want to make a distinction. There's a difference between prosecutions and what happens with your police department. Calls, services, other things like that. I'm talking about actual prosecutions in the community. And when we evaluate the statistics, sometimes it's hard to tell the exact reason why. And a lot of times people like to point fingers, blame, or this is the reason why, this is the other reason why. So I want you to take all of this information as just information. Sometimes we can tell trends, sometimes we cannot. And I think what you'll find from my presentation here tonight is that you will see a couple of trends. And there are some other areas that you won't, and that's okay. But I really want to get into the big picture. And I think the biggest trend is this, and probably the most important trend, is that we've had 0 prosecutions for homicides here in the town in 3 years. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Most towns in Pinal County can't say that. In addition, under my administration, we have adopted really a clear philosophy that violent offenders should be held accountable. Aggravated assault prosecutions have increased here in this town, not because violence is going unchecked, but because we are charging much more aggressively. We have significantly changed our policies on how we charge these particular crimes. And this is to ensure that serious offenders face felony-level consequences for felony-level acts. We are sending a message that violence in Florence, whether in the community or inside the correctional facilities, will not be tolerated. Now, of course, as you know, Florence is very unique. It's really a tale of two cities. We have our community-based crimes, and then we have our correctional crimes. You are home to one of the largest correctional complexes in Arizona, and that, of course, comes with very unique challenges. In 2025, our office prosecuted 8 assaults on corrections employees across the state, contract, and juvenile facilities. We believe that men and women who serve in these particular facilities, who serve inside these walls, deserve the same exact protection of every resident outside them. In addition, we have prosecuted numerous crimes of inmate-on-inmate violence, including a couple of weeks ago us announcing that we're seeking the death penalty against one of those particular individuals. Number 4, drugs. Our drug enforcement strategy has evolved over the last 3 years. In 2023, Florence saw just 11 drug charges related to narcotics and paraphernalia. Today, we are targeting dangerous drugs and methamphetamines at the source. We tripled drug enforcement from 2024 to 2025, and we refocused on the most impactful areas of your communities, including possession for sale charges. We are not chasing volume, we're chasing impact. And we're looking for ways not just to charge drug possession charges, but look for ways on how that impacts the community. If it's around schools, if it's for sale, or if there's lots of weight. And this has changed, and you're going to see in your numbers pretty significantly. In 2025, we introduced charge categories that really hadn't been filed very often here in Florence, including sex offender registration enforcement, weapons charges tied to felony drug offenses. And this, of course, reflects a broader, more sophisticated approach to public safety. We're not standing still, we're expanding our reach and addressing these particular threats in your community. Now, of course, with all of this, I don't believe our work is done. And you're going to see that from some of the numbers here today. Community-based crime in Florence has grown over the past 3 years. Assault numbers are rising. Disorderly conduct has increased. And of course, burglary and trespass have surged. But these quality of life issues are affecting your residents directly, and we are committed to working with your law enforcement and your police chief and your town manager and this council to address each of these issues head on. Now, in closing, before I get into the actual numbers, I want to say this. Florence, of course, faces different types of challenges that no other community in Pinal County really faces. The correctional complex alone generates about 40% of all your criminal charges. But this administration is committed to treating Florence with the same attention and resources of every other town and unincorporated area of Pinal County. We will continue to prosecute violent offenders, target dangerous drugs strategically, and hold correctional facility actors accountable. We really thank you for your partnership. Now I want to get into the numbers. What you're going to see is, I have two presentations. I'm going to release one to members of the public. I didn't get my full presentation to you in time to comply with open meeting law, but what we will do is release this to any member of the public who wants to see it. It'll be on our website. In addition, we'll release it to any member of the council, and I think you'll find it instructive. It's also the same presentation that I provided to Chief Thomas. All right, so with this, I want to talk about the big picture, and I'm going to go back. This isn't working. Did I do it wrong? I can just click it. That's all right. Can I go? I can go back the other way too. All right, there we go.
It works now, so just because it happened.
Oh, perfect. All right, I want to start with 2023. Now here's the big picture. You can see the dots of where the particular prosecutions occurred in your community. In 2023, there were 171 incidents, and of course, various types of incidents. In 2024, 208 incidents, a rise of 22%. And then in 2025, 282 incidents. Now, regarding prison-related crime, as I said, as you know, Florence is really a tale of two cities. Two crime profiles. Prison-related crime last year in 2025 was 117 incidents, whereas community-based crime, 165 incidents. Now, what's happening in the neighborhoods? What we're seeing this past year are assaults account for about 35% of the crime in your community, and of course traffic and drugs, about 10 or 11%. Those assaults have risen from, in 2023, 38 to, as I said, 57 last year, about a 61% increase. Drugs, as I told you, some of these numbers are going to be good and trending in the right direction. Drugs activity in 2023, there were 11 total charges. In 2024, 32, and then last year, 18. So we're seeing a downward trend. And again, I think that's related to the tough enforcement activities that we're seeing in our prosecutions, and really targeting those areas that can get at some of the major drug activity, including some of those trafficking charges. Property crimes, and I think this is one of those areas that I think all of the residents of Florence should be concerned about. We're seeing a rise in property crimes, including burglary and trespass. From 2023, 5 incidents, 2024, 4 incidents, last year 14. We're seeing a significant rise. And the same thing with theft and disorderly conduct. Let's talk a little bit about correctional complex on the other side of that coin. In 2023, 45 incidents, in 2024, 48, and then last year, 58, a rise of almost 30%. All right, so tackling all of these issues and looking at the particular numbers, we're seeing some problematic areas. But I think some of this is related to a couple of factors based upon my experience and, of course, speaking with our prosecutors. We're seeing a large increase in the number of residents that are moving into the area. But I think the bigger issue is we're seeing a stepped up enforcement by your police department. Sometimes numbers that rise, I think, are a good thing. And I think the message that I want this council and the people of Florence to take away is that the rise in numbers is a good thing. We're actually seeing enforcement. We're taking these particular cases seriously. We're prosecuting the people that need to be prosecuted. And we're taking those folks out of the community that need to be out of the community. And then, of course, the ones that need treatment or can receive treatment, we're splitting those folks off too. And what I believe, if we see this, and I think we're going to see this trend maybe for another year, but I think we're going to start seeing a drop in crime. If you read any crime book on criminology, and of course you can take any anecdotal evidence regarding people who work in the prosecution or any county attorney's office, I think you'll see that it's a very small percentage of folks that commit most of the crime. It's repeat offenders, people who have repeat again and again and again. And the people who commit crime are very small, typically about 5 to 10%. And I believe if we can hold those folks accountable, we're going to start seeing these numbers drop. But with that, I would like to leave the council and ask if there are any questions. But I will say, and like I said, I wanted to leave this council with this, that we're seeing a rise in numbers, we're seeing a rise in residents, but we're also seeing a rise in accountability and people who should be prosecuted. And we're allowing the prosecutions to occur so that we can eventually see the people of this town safe. There's no reason why a person can't take their child to the park. They should be safe to drive. And I think by holding folks accountable, you're going to start seeing people's views on crime and safety change significantly.